You're looking at number 10 on the back of page 3 of your packet, 1 over m minus 5 plus 2m minus 19 over m squared minus m minus 20. Now, hopefully, you're starting to get the hang of the fact that the strategy is factor the denominator, ignore the numerator at first. When you're trying to add and subtract fractions and rational expressions, you've got to focus on the common denominator before you can do anything with the numerator. I can see they're not common as they're written, so I'm going to go ahead and factor what I can. 1 over m minus 5 is not factorable. I go ahead and put parentheses because it's, first of all, it's true, it's implied in a fraction, but second of all, it's going to make multiplication easier. And then I'm going to do plus 2m minus 19. I'm ignoring the numerator except to rewrite it. And I'm going to factor. What are the factors of m squared minus m minus 20? So I'm looking for factors of 20 that give me 1. It's going to end up being a 5 and a 4 because 5 times 4 is 20. And then remember that minus m is minus 1m. If I wrote m minus 5, I knew it was minus because that's the bigger number when you're combining. Is the sign that you get. So I knew that since the middle term is negative, it has to be m minus 5 and m plus 4. So now I'm looking, and remember that you've got to do a denominator check. Everything has to have the same factors. So I've got an m minus 5 in both, and that's good. I'm missing an m plus 4 in the left-hand side, so I multiply by m plus 4 in the numerator and the denominator, because that's just a really complicated form of 1. And now, ta-da, if you look, I now have m plus 4 in both of the denominators, which means I'm ready to do my math. So I'm going to put them both all the way over my new common denominator. I am not going to multiply it out because I am inherently lazy, and I know that I'll have to undo it later. So I'm just going to leave it unmultiplied, and I'm going to do my math on the numerator. So up here on the numerator, I've got a 1 that distributes across the m plus 4. 1 times m is m. 1 times 4 is 4. There's nothing distributing right here, except you could consider it a 1 if you wanted to, but plus 1. So it's plus 2m minus 19, and I'm going to make that shorter. And so what I've got to do is combine like terms on the numerator only. So m plus 2m is going to give me 3m, and I've combined both of those. Plus 4 minus 19 is going to give me minus 15 over that denominator. Okay, I've done all my math in the numerator, so the last thing is to look and see, can I factor that at all? And in fact, I can, because I know that 3m and 15 both have as factors the number 3. That constant 3, if I were to distribute that or undistribute it out, I would have an m minus 5 in the numerator. And now the numerator is fully factored. And the denominator, I'm just going to rewrite. Okay. So now I'm looking for anything that can cancel, and remember, cancel is a very complicated version of 1, something over itself. M minus 5 over m minus 5 is a 1. So that cancels, and what I'm left with is 3 over m plus 4. And that's the answer. Now, I want to tell you something quickly. I tried this one a minute ago and I made a mistake. I made a sign error. I want to show you, and I knew that it was weird because I couldn't cancel at the end, which is generally what they're going for. So here's what I did. I chose just a weird number, and I decided, if you were working backwards on a test, let's say it's a multiple choice test, and you've got all the answer choices and it's an equation, you can plug in, and the one that gives you a true statement is the correct answer. With expressions like this, you can't do that. You can't really work backwards, but what you can do is test numbers, because you know that the starting equation, that was true. That's what they gave you, and you have to assume that's true. So if you pick a random number, let's just say 6, okay? And let's plug a 6 in here, 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 and here. So everywhere there's an m, we're going to plug in a 6 and do the math. So that would be 6 squared, 6, 6. So it's going to end up being 1 over 6 minus 5 plus 2 times 6, which is 12 minus 19, over 6 squared is 36, minus 1 times 6 is 6, minus 20. So 6 minus 5 is 1, 1 over 1, plus 12 minus 19 is negative 7 over 36 minus 6 is going to be 30. And if you take away 20 from 30, you get 10. So I end up with 1 over 1 minus 7 over 10. And now I'm going to just get common denominators. I'm going to multiply by 10 over 10 here. And what that's going to give me is 10 over 10 minus 7 over 10. And 10 over 10 minus 7 over 10 is going to be 10 minus 7 over that common denominator 10. And 10 minus 7 is 3. So 3/10. I know that was complicated, but most of the time you're going to have a calculator and you'll be able to calculate that out and then do on your TI 84 math, and the first option is frac, and then you hit enter. If you just did all that math in your calculator and then told it to change it to a fraction, it would give you 3/10. Okay, remember I chose a 6. Here's how you can tell if you simplified right. Go to the end result and see what happens when you put a 6 in. Okay, so if I did 3 over 6 plus 4, that would be 3 over 10. 3/10. Take a look at this. 3/10, 3/10. Which means that provided your very last step that you've got, which I'm going to circle here in black over and over, provided that is as simple as it is possible to get, then you had to have done your math right, because you ended up with the same number when you plugged in at the beginning as you did when you plugged that same number in at the end. So that's a way to check if you make an error or if you think you made an error.